There is a system running quietly in the background of American life, and it was built to keep a whole generation renting forever. Most people never see it because it has no face, no headquarters, and no single villain to point at. And that invisibility is exactly what makes it so powerful and so hard to fight. For decades, the deal in this country was simple and it was supposed to be permanent. A young person got a job, saved for a few years, and bought a small house with a yard. That house was not just shelter. It was the on-ramp to the entire American middle class. Every mortgage payment quietly moved money out of a landlord's pocket and into the family's own net worth. Therefore, an entire generation grew up assuming that starter home was already waiting for them somewhere down the road. But somewhere along the way, that road got longer. And then it kept getting longer every single year. In 1981, the typical American bought their first home at the age of 29. 10 years ago, that first-time buyer had aged up to 31, which already felt like a warning sign. By 2025, the median first-time buyer in America was 40 years old. The finish line moved 11 full years in a single decade, and almost nobody stopped to ask why. Therefore, a huge share of young Americans are now doing something their parents never had to do. First-time buyers made up just 21% of the market in 2025, the lowest share ever recorded. For most of modern history, that number sat closer to 40% of all buyers. So the front door to ownership did not slam shut overnight. It was quietly welded half-closed while everyone was looking somewhere else. Now here is where the numbers start to feel almost personal. In 1985, the typical American home cost about 3.5 times a household's yearly income. By 2025, that same home cost more than 5 times what a household earns in a year. At the peak in 2022, the price-to-income ratio hit the highest level ever recorded in this country. And the raw growth numbers explain exactly how the trap was set. Since 1980, home prices in America have climbed 551%. Over that exact same stretch, household incomes rose only 373%. That gap is not a rounding error. It is the whole story of a generation's frustration. If wages had simply kept pace with home prices since 1980, the median household would earn around $115,000 today. Instead, the typical household earns roughly $83,000, and it is expected to buy a $400,000 house. But the price tag is only the part everyone can see. And it is not even the cruelest part. The cruelest part is what happens while a person is trying to save for that shrinking dream. Rent takes a bigger and bigger bite, which leaves less money to save for a down payment. Therefore, the buyer chases a target that keeps sprinting away faster than they can chase it. By 2023, half of all American renters were spending more than 30% of their income just on housing. More than a quarter of renters were severely burdened, handing over more than half of everything they earned. Among renters making under $30,000, a staggering 83% were cost-burdened. So the system does something almost diabolical to the people stuck inside it. It charges them the most for rent at the exact moment they most need to be saving to escape it. And this is the point where almost everyone reaches for the same easy villain. They blame Wall Street, the hedge funds, the faceless corporation buying up every house on the block. It feels true. It feels satisfying. And it fits neatly into a headline. But when you actually pull the ownership data, that cartoon villain quietly falls apart. Big institutional investors like Blackstone own only a tiny sliver of America's single-family homes, roughly 1/3 of 1%. Government investigators found large-scale investors hold around 2% of the single-family rental stock nationally. And the biggest corporate landlords have actually been selling more homes than they buy for 6 straight quarters. Now, investors as a whole do buy a lot of houses, but the picture is not what people think. Most of those buyers are small mom-and-pop landlords, not giant hedge funds and glass towers. So the enemy everyone loves to hate turns out to be, at most, a minor character. Therefore, the real system is far more unsettling than one greedy company, because no single person actually designed it. It was built slowly, quietly, one local decision at a time, by ordinary towns and ordinary rules. The engine hiding underneath the whole crisis is not Wall Street, it is the zoning map. As of recent data, about 75% of residential land in most American cities is zoned only for single-family houses. That means on most of the land, it is literally illegal to build anything more affordable than a detached house. Height rules cap construction at roughly 2 or 3 stories on about 60% of residential land in major metros. So the country quietly outlawed the exact kinds of homes that young and first-time buyers could actually afford. Therefore, after a decade of building too little, America dug itself into an enormous hole. Depending on who is counting, the nation is now short somewhere between 4 and nearly 5 million homes. But here is the question that unlocks everything, and it is the question almost no one asks out loud. If the shortage is so obvious and the fix is so well understood, then why does nothing ever change? The answer is the quiet heart of the whole invisible system, and it is uncomfortable. The people who already own homes benefit enormously when new homes are hard to build. Scarcity is what makes their single biggest asset go up in value year after year. Therefore, the winners of the housing game hold most of the power to change the rules, and they have every reason not to. Local zoning fights are decided by the neighbors who show up, and homeowners show up to protect their equity. So the system defends itself automatically, without any conspiracy, without any secret meeting, without any villain at all. And the scoreboard of that rigged game is now brutally lopsided between the generations. In 2025, baby boomers owned homes at nearly 80%, while adult Gen Z owned at just 27%. Millennials own less than 2/3 of what boomers owned at the very same age. Boomers now sit on roughly $19 trillion in home equity, a fortune built partly on scarcity. Meanwhile, the younger generation carries a weight the older one never had to think about. Student debt delays the average buyer's first home purchase by about 7 extra years. So a young person starts the race late, carrying a backpack full of bricks, chasing a finish line that keeps moving. This is what designed to keep you renting really means, even though no one actually sat down and designed it. It is a machine that rewards the insiders and quietly taxes everyone still standing outside. But a system this large does not mean the individual is powerless, and that distinction matters more than anything else in this video. You cannot personally fix zoning law this weekend, but you can absolutely refuse to play the game on the losing square. The first move is geography, because affordability in America is wildly different depending on where you stand. In the priciest metros like San Jose, homes cost more than 11 times a household's income. In cities like St. Louis, that same ratio drops to under 4 times income. So a buyer priced out forever in one zip code can be a homeowner within 2 years in another. The winning strategy is to chase the places that are actually building, not the places quietly hoarding scarcity. The second move is to stop believing the myth of the 20% down payment. That number is a tradition, not a law, and it locks people out who never needed to wait. Government-backed loans let qualified first-time buyers put down as little as 3 or 3.5%. In fact, the typical buyer under 25 puts down under 5%. Not 20. On top of that, thousands of state and local programs exist to help first-time buyers cover the down payment. Most people who qualify for that help have absolutely no idea those programs even exist. So the very first task is not saving a fortune, it is finding out what you already qualify for today. The third move is to change what buying a home is even allowed to look like. A first home does not have to be the finished dream house with the white fence. It can be a small condo, a fixer-upper, or a duplex where a tenant helps pay your mortgage. That last one has a name that young investors love, and it is called house hacking. You buy a place with extra rooms or extra units, then rent part of it out to cover the loan. Therefore, your tenants quietly help you buy the very asset the system tried to keep from you. And the final move is the mindset shift that frees you no matter what the market does. The real goal was never a house. The real goal was always ownership of appreciating assets. If buying makes no sense in your city right now, renting is not failure. It is a strategy. A disciplined renter who invests the difference in the market can still build serious long-term wealth. Remember, the median household still earns about $25,000 less than it needs to comfortably buy the median home. So, refusing to overpay in a broken market is not giving up. It is playing a smarter game. The people who escape this system are the ones who stop chasing the old script and write their own. Because the machine only wins if you keep following rules that were quietly written by the people who already won.